Hello again. I'm Jay Requard, the wandering fantasy author, and this is Pondering the Orb, a show about books, music, and more that crosses all borders. I'll let you sit with your coffee and enjoy that. Please buy something. Or at least like and subscribe. Until then, let's get on the quest. I'm reading from While the Gods Laugh because Michael Moorcock is awesome and Elric of Melbourne will always be awesome. While the Gods Laugh first appeared in science fantasy in 1961. Let's read. While the Gods Laugh by Michael Moorcock. I, while the gods laugh, the world's vortex am, maelstrom of passions in that hidden sea, whose waves of all time lap the coasts of me, and in small compass the dark waters cram. Mervyn Peake, Shapes and Sounds, 1941. Chapter 1. One night, as Elric sat moodily drinking alone in a tavern, a wingless woman of Mirren came gliding out of the storm and rested her lithe body against his. Her face was thin and frail-boned, almost as white as Elric's own albino skin, and she wore flimsy pale green robes which contrasted well with her dark red hair. The tavern was ablaze with candle flame and alive with droning argument and gusting laughter, but the words of the woman of Mirren came clear and liquid, carrying over the zesty din. "I have sought you 20 days, she said to Elric, who regarded her insolently through hooded crimson eyes and lazed in a high-backed chair, a silver wine cup in his long-fingered right hand and his left on the pommel of his sorceress rune sword, Stormbringer. 20 days, murmured the Melibonian softly, speaking as if to himself, mockingly rude. A long time for a beautiful and lonely woman to be wandering the world. He opened his eyes a trifle wider and spoke to her directly. I am Elric of Melibone, as you evidently know. I grant no favors and ask none. Bearing this in mind, tell me why you have sought me for 20 days. Equably, the woman replied, undaunted by the albino's supercilious tone. You are a bitter man, Elric. I know this also, and you are grief-haunted for reasons which are already legend. I ask you no favors, but bring you myself in a proposition. What do you desire most in the world? Peace, Elric told her simply. Then he smiled ironically and said, I am an evil man, lady, and my destiny is hell-doomed. But I am not unwise, nor unfair. Let me remind you of a little truth. Call this legend if you prefer. I do not care. A woman died a year ago, on the blade of my trusty sword. He patted the blade sharply, and his eyes were suddenly hard and self-mocking. Since then I have courted no woman and desired none. Why should I break such secure habits? If asked, I grant you that I could speak poetry to you, and that you have a grace and beauty which moves me into interesting speculation. But I would not load any part of my dark burden upon one as exquisite as you. Any relationship between us, other than formal, would necessitate my unwilling shifting of part of that burden. He paused for an instant, and then said slowly, I should admit that I scream in my sleep sometimes, and am often tortured by incommunicable self-loathing. Go while you can, lady, and forget Elric, for he can bring only grief to your soul. With a quick movement, he turned his gaze from her and lifted the silver wine cup, draining it and replenishing it from a jug at his side. No, said the wingless woman of Mirren calmly. I will not. Come with me. She rose and gently took Elric's hand. Without knowing why, Elric allowed himself to be led from the tavern and out into the wild, rainless storm which howled around the Filcarian city of Rashil. A protective and cynical smile hovered about his mouth as she drew him toward the sea-lashed quayside, where she told him her name. Sharila of the Dancing Mist, wingless daughter of a dead necromancer, a cripple in her own strange land, and an outcast. Elric felt uncomfortably drawn to this calm-eyed woman who wasted few words. He felt a great surge of emotion well within him, emotion he had not thought to experience again, and he wanted to take her finely molded shoulders and press her slim body to his. But he quelled the urge and studied her marble delicacy and her wild hair which flowed in the wind about her head. Silence rested comfortably between them while the chaotic wind howled mournfully over the sea. Here, Elric could ignore the warm stink of the city, and he felt almost relaxed. At last, looking away from him towards the swirling sea, her green robe curling in the wind, she said, "You have heard, of course, of the Dead God's Book?" Elric nodded. He was interested, despite the need he felt to dissociate himself as much as possible from his fellows. The mythical book was believed to contain knowledge which could solve many problems that had plagued men for centuries. It held a holy and mighty wisdom every sorcerer desired to sample. But it was believed destroyed, hurled into the sun when the old gods were dying in the cosmic waste which lay beyond the outer reaches of the solar system. Another legend, apparently of later origin, spoke vaguely of the Dark Ones who had interrupted the book's sunward coursing and had stolen it before it could be destroyed. Most scholars discounted this legend, arguing that, by this time, the book would have come to light if it did still exist. Elric made himself speak flatly, so he appeared to be uninterested as he answered Sharila. "Why do you mention the book?" "I know that it exists," Sharila replied intensely. "And I know where it is. My father acquired the knowledge just before he died. Myself, and the book, you may have if you will help me get it." Could the secret of peace be contained in the book? Elric wondered. Would he, if he found it, be able to dispense with Stormbringer? "If you want it so badly that you seek my help," he said eventually, "why do you not wish to keep it?" "Because I would be afraid to have such a thing perpetually in my custody. It is not a book for an ordinary mortal to own, but you are possibly the last mighty nigromancer left in the world, and it is fitting that you should have it. Besides, you might kill me to obtain it. I would never be safe with such a volume in my hands. I need only one small part of its wisdom." "What is that?" Elric inquired, studying her patrician beauty with a new pulse stirring within him. Her mouth set and the lids fell over her eyes. "When we have the book in our hands, then you will have your answer. Not before." "This answer is good enough," Elric remarked quickly, seeing that he would gain no more information at this stage. "And the answer appeals to me." Half before he realized it, he seized her shoulders in his slim, pale hands and pressed his colorless lips to her scarlet mouth. Welp, it's time to sell some books. This is The Driver of Serpents, the first book in my urban fantasy series, The Blessed and Possessed, out now from Falstaff Books. There you go, John. I did the marketing. Am I pretty now, John? Am I? Now out in ebook, paperback, hardcover, and soon an audiobook. Prepare for something from yours truly, with a terrible Irish accent. The Driver of Serpents, by Jay Requard. The Blessed and Possessed, Book 1. Part 1. The Saint. Chapter 1, Session 1. Since you're listening, I'll start at the beginning. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth. Kidding. Let me start again. This began in New York. I took a hit off the joint before the busboy opened the back door, the blueberry smoke filling my lungs. I blew it out like a dragon. Or at least I thought I looked like a dragon. For all I knew, the bloody fool gaped with a curiosity born less from how much smoke I exhaled than the sight of a skinny Irish priest sparking a joint in the middle of a Chinatown alley. I was still in my blacks I had worn during my final visit to Vatican City, where I had quit less than 24 hours before, and I had left my white priest collar unbuttoned, sticking out of my shirt's collar. Fuck, I didn't care. Ex-priest. My name's Patrick. St. Patrick of Ireland, in case there was confusion later on. Yes, that one. The Driver of Serpents, Delver of Purgatory, and your favorite disappointment's best reason to get plastered every March. And that night I was about to exorcise a demon in the freezer of an old, dirty Chinese restaurant. The joint still glowed as I rested against the gutter for later, my head lightened to the point where I no longer cared about the hangover I'd carried all the way from JFK. Sticky from years of grease, sweat, and steam that had browned and bubbled pieces of the paint, the dingy gray door opened with a pop. The smell of boiled cabbage, soggy pepper, and God knows what else struck me as I entered an industrial kitchen. The stainless appliances stained beyond repair. Grimy walks burned over blue gas flames, unmanned by the two cooks crowding one of the kitchen's corners. They puffed on bent, shriveled cigarettes they shared from the same pack of Camels. The door to the walk-in freezer lay shut, crates of unwashed radishes stacked before it. I thumbed at the hunk of steel. There, lads? One of the cooks nodded, liver-spotted hands shaking while he drew another lungful of cancer. The busboy unstacked the crates before the freezer door while I removed my tools from the black pea coat I had worn over my holy monkey suit. Same shit every time. The good book, my crucifix, my rosary, and what remained of my vestment, a long scarf of green cloth embroidered in gold knotwork formed to match the silver cross attached to the rosary. Real Irish folk hate it when it's called a Celtic cross, as if the bloody sheep fuckers in Scotland didn't have druids and shit too, or bless their hearts, problems with those damn limey fucks like everyone else does. Let me tell you about ancient Ireland and its neighbors. There were druids everywhere. Tree-huggering, human sacrifice, and wild-ass magic druids. Then they became Catholics. That's when the real trouble started. I let the thought go when I threw on my vestment, kissing the ends before crossing myself. Any of you got a bottle of water I can use? One of the cooks, the younger of the pair, puttered to the front of the restaurant and returned with a bottle of Deer Park, its paper label half torn from rough handling. Condensation on the plastic wet my hand, a sensation I did not like when stoned to the gills. Ah, fuck, I muttered, blessing the water before nodding to the busboy. Cracker. The busboy hesitated, checking with the older cook. The man nodded, his Fu Manchu wet at the ends. The freezer opened. A putrid smell wafted out, dried by the frost. I walked in, not hesitating for a second. Demons are all show and tell, very little substance. I could get into the fact that not a single one of these dark bastards would ever actually dig their claws into anybody without God's express permission, but that's a book within itself. Multiple books. He sat in a folding chair, the kind one saw at wrestling shows, dead center in the small 10 by 15-foot rectangle. Wrinkled chickens hung from hooks beside slathered beef ribs and trays piled with frozen dumplings, fresh from the packaging discarded in the room's corners. Barefoot, he leaned like a drunkard, the front of his wife-beater stained in blood and grease. The demon had bitten open his bottom lip. You speak English? I asked as the door closed behind us. The lock clacked shut on the outside. The fluorescent lights revealed enough when he looked up at me. His eyes were blacked out. My rosary wrapped around my left hand. I twirled the black wooden crucifix in the fingers of my right. I placed it on his knee. Our Father, who art in heaven. He's not. Oh, speaking on the first go. I stepped back and smiled. Those black eyes stared ahead at the corner of the freezer. Come on now. Don't get nervous on account of little old me. The demon said nothing. I touched his shoulder with the cross. Here in the name of God, tormentor, for the one that made this vessel and its waters has come. In the name of Michael of the archangels, protector of heaven, earth, and the towers, I beseech thee to speak your name and depart back to perdition. The possessed cook's face twitched. He coughed. Demons lie. That's the first rule. But the tricks were always the same. Keep quiet until the deed was done for whatever the devil had sent them for. Yet none ever counted on a demon's pride. It must have been a hard fall from heaven to stay angry about it. Out, vile thing, for the light of the Lord has come with the voice of Mary in our ears. I kept the cross on his shoulder. Come, fallen child, lose yourself of this flesh, and travel back to your burning place until the slag is gone, until the day you are judged. Leave and be gone forever. The demon raised his head and looked right at me. We met in Italy, you know. I belted him across the face, the beads of my rosary biting into my knuckles. Knocked to the floor, the demon kicked away, a blackened hand out to stop me. Please, St. Patrick, please. Is that fucking you, Barrett? I almost dropped my Bible. I told you to stop fucking around with souls back in Rome. He cocked a black eye at me, a small smile on his bloody lips. You still came. I unscrewed the cap of my holy water and blessed that son of a bitch right then and there. No steam, no boiled flesh, but I got what I wanted. The little cook's body writhed and bucked. Arms and legs bent at odd angles while the demon convulsed. Barrett shrieked like dying children. I squatted at his trembling feet, letting my green and silver rosary dangle from my hand. Let's cut the shit, boyo. I got his attention, our eyes locked again. You remember what you said the last time I forced you out of someone? The new word is still without a body, the demon mumbled, fighting for words. And the word resides in her. No. You said come to New York and I would save more souls. You horned fucks don't ever talk about saving souls, but I came to New York. Your turn. What's next? Barrett scooted to the freezer's wall and leaned against it face first, like an Egyptian praying on the day the frogs fell. Heaving to steady his racked, wet body, he twisted at the waist to face me, crunching the cook's spine. Cut that out, I said. I'm getting to it. Vertebrae popped when he aligned his torso to his lower half and rested against the scummed iron. Do you have a cigarette? I rose to my feet. I don't do tobacco. Well, fuck. Barrett searched the red floor in vain. Care to share the rest of that weed in your boot? The cover of my Bible ripped open, my fingers digging through until I found the right passage. You ever hear the one about Christ in the wilderness? Peace, potato eater. The demon held up his hand. The veins beneath the cook's skin had darkened, the possession asserted fully over the host's soul. Who knew how long Barrett had kept his claws in this one? I fought him well over a bloody year back in Rome before he started spouting his new word nonsense from a little girl's mouth. Until it stopped sounding like nonsense. He might have had this poor sod for years. Talk, demon. I sipped from my bottle of holy water, easing the parch in my throat. Be quick. She is here, he said. She's here in New York. Who? And the word resides in her, he quoted again. We stared at each other for a long time, neither saying anything. The cross in my left hand, Bible in my right. The answer to my dilemma came swift. Barrett, I beseech you, just ask me to leave. The request startled me. Demons fought, screamed, shouted, but they never gave up until someone broke them like God had. Why? Why what? He asked. Just send me home. In the name of Christ and his angels, go back to perdition, Barrett, and wait for the day of judgment. The darkness in the cook's eyes subsided, and for a moment the man tilted his face skyward, as if beyond the moldy green ceiling there lay the sun shining bright upon him for the first time. She was there, I knew, as she always was. Our mother saving the lambs as her son, the shepherd, had saved us from our sins. The cook spoke in his language, which I think was Mandarin. I don't know what he said, but I picked out the name Mary well enough. I blessed him, provided him the body and blood, and had the entire staff recite the Lord's Prayer and way too many Hail Marys to make sure before I got the fuck out of there. The city glittered, well past midnight, but bustling in the streets outside the alleys. Like Rome, this city never slept, and like Rome, what went on was no more, no less holy. People marched to work, dumb and blind to the great war within and around them. I found the leftover of my joint on the curb, and with enough scratch to create a decent little ember, the blueberry hit smooth as I removed my vestment and repacked my gear and my coat. My phone buzzed. The chair had called 15 times in the last hour. Letting the grass take away the exhaustion in my neck, back, and hands, I let the city's light bathe me in neon and fluorescence, one lost saint in the places in between, and the word resides with her. Whatever the fuck that meant.
This is Under a Serpent Sun by At the Gates, featured in their landmark album, Slaughter of the Soul. Every so often you find an artist who is able to boil down what they do into a pure form that is undeniable. And if you listen to Chill Synth, you've come across Safari. All the way from Mexico, we have a synth sorcerer in the south, folks. Seek his tower. We now play Ceremony by Safari. Please remember to check out all the books and music below in the description. Please like and subscribe. But as always, safe journeys. See you next time.